So a lot of things have happened to you over the past few months. Your star has risen. Last you were here, you had a blue Twitter verification check. You do not have it anymore. You are, as far as I know, the only public person to have their blue verification check. For those that don't know what it means, I mean, it basically means you are who you are. So that if you're a celebrity or you're a politician,
identity verification.
Yeah, it's just saying you are who you are. That's it, right? But you had yours removed.
Yes.
I don't think there's been any other case of that happening, and it clearly was a punitive measure. So just real quick though, I just want people to understand, we're not doing this to be so inside or, oh, my little Twitter account got whatever,
no,
but there's a bigger issue.
It matters because Twitter is using a mechanism to protect public figures like us from impersonation. And also there are privilege concerns. When somebody's speaking to me in my role as a journalist, they have an expectation of privacy and of legal privilege. Yeah. Now people are DMing people with my name on Twitter, giving personal information about their lives. That exposes Twitter to liability too, by the way. There's there's a reason why it's a good idea to have public figures verified, but they used it as an ideological weapon. And now, when I went to the White House to ask about this, I asked Josh Earnest about this, and he said, very interestingly, I thought, the president would be the first to affirm that the success of these social networking companies rests on their commitment to First Amendment principles. Now, he wasn't saying you can enforce the First Amendment on private companies. And I'd get thrown out of the conservative club if I tried to suggest that.
And just to be clear, the First Amendment is about the government taking away your free speech, not people taking away your free speech.
But the late Aaron Swartz, the founder of Reddit, said, censorship has a meaning outside the government when private companies have a monopoly on certain kinds of speech. Now, Twitter certainly does, not only because it has such a stranglehold on journalism and the media, but also because it's invented an entirely new public square. If you're in a pub and you make a joke that involves race or sex or whatever, and the publican doesn't like it, you can go to another pub down the road. There is no other Twitter, all right? This is a fundamentally important part of our media and our democracy.
So they're controlling basically one of the big highways of information.
Right, and it comes with responsibilities. It comes with responsibility to your users to do one of two things. One, be honest and say, do you know what? We're a liberal space. If you're a conservative, sooner or later you're going to get banned. We don't really want you here, but you can stay for as long as you don't piss us off too much. And I piss them off too much.
And they have banned people, not you.
And they ban people all the time, always in one direction.
You were
always
temporarily banned also.
Oh, I get suspended now and again because I make jokes about feminists or whatever. So what I said that I'd been appointed social justice editor of BuzzFeed.
Right.
As a joke, obviously.
Right. A lot of people took you seriously. It was
which was the point. It was funny.
Right.
Idiots, idiots. And then immediately after that, when people were tweeting Ben Smith, their boss, and say, "How dare you hire this man? I'm never reading BuzzFeed again." When I knew that it had taken hold, then I started the hashtag Feminism is Cancer, and I did a poll. Would you rather your children had feminism or cancer? And 22,000 people voted, and they voted for cancer. And I had cancer survivors email. Atting me saying, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor and I still chose cancer. Funny. I thought it was funny. Anyway, they didn't like that very much. So the point is, if you are these days irreverent, mischievous, provocative, and to do those things you have to be a conservative because the establishment is not just liberal but progressive liberal. If you want to be punk these days, you want to be cool and dissident and mischievous, you have to be conservative. And if you are that on Twitter, sooner or later you're going to lose your account. Now, they should be honest about that. Or they should enforce free speech, and not this weird definition of free speech that Jack Dorsey seems to have, the CEO of Twitter. Yeah. He seems to think that it's a sort of freedom from rather than freedom to. So free speech on Twitter means freedom from conservatives. Freedom from different points of view. And it plays into the safe space and trigger warning culture that I know that you and your listeners know more than enough about already. It's freedom from ever having to be exposed to anything that might make you feel uncomfortable. Well, that's not what freedom of speech is. He needs to stop lying to users that Twitter is, the free speech wing of the free speech party. Yeah. It's very clear. If you go off reservation on most of these social networks, you're going to be punished. And Facebook too, by the way, is teaming up with Angela Merkel in Germany. I think everybody knows this now. Yeah. To censor perfectly reasonable mainstream discussion from citizens who are concerned about mass immigration into their country, about millions of people coming into their country, about the rape epidemics, about all sorts of awful things that are happening to young German girls. Facebook won't let you talk about it.
just to prove that this is true and that you're not making this up, I've had two
I don't make
instances.
things up.
Yeah, but I have two instances where I have a decent connection at Facebook.
Yeah.
And I've had two instances. One where my former guest, Faisal Saeed Al-Mutar, who's been here twice, who is from Iraq, a refugee from Iraq, who is now living in the West and fights for Western values. His page got banned because people didn't like that he was speaking out against Islamism. And then I had a group of atheist Muslims that their page got banned as if it was hate speech. So what you're saying, I just want people to understand that it's actually real. You're not just...
They do it, they do it to everybody, and they don't even care now about violating their own sacred tenets. This identitarian, nonsense where you're sort of in a protected class from, as far as liberals are concerned, if you're a woman or if you're gay, if you're black, whatever.
Yeah.
Now there are universities that are, there are university students who are no platforming black transsexuals because, they get invited by Jews. This stuff has become insane.
Literally happened last week
and
with my friend Janet Mock.
And they don't mind. They don't mind if you're gay or if you're brown-skinned or whatever. What they will not tolerate is diversity of opinion. The diversity of skin color has gone out the window now. If you want to cry victim, if you want to pretend you're an oppressed class, you'll get all sorts of plaudits from the left. You'll get all sorts of rewards. They don't care so much about that, however. What they really don't want, what they are terrified of, because they can't fight it with facts, is libertarian and conservative points of view. And that freedom from ever being challenged on anything, that freedom from ever having to encounter something with which you might disagree, or something that might make you feel uncomfortable, or something that might ridicule you, is the definition of freedom that has taken hold on the left in America today, and it is poisonous. It is, it is entirely antithetical to democracy, to the free and open exchange of ideas, to classical liberalism, to intellectual inquiry.
So that's what it is, though. Really, that classical liberalism has really been pushed aside. That's where
nobody believes in it anymore.
That nobody really understands. Nobody even knows that it exists, I think.
Well, certainly not in the universities I speak at. I mean, I'm on my tour at the moment of universities, and the thing that has amazed me is the extent to which the faculties at these universities don't just refuse to expose their students to different points of view. They don't just ridicule conservative points of view. They don't even know about them. It's been for a while fairly well known that the #1 textbook, economics textbook, in this country, in America, on set lists, is Karl Marx, right? And say what you want about it. It's kind of a conservative talking point. But it's becoming increasingly clear, especially at liberal arts colleges that don't have any sort of federal regulations about, what the sorts of things, the government doesn't get involved in what they teach. In these liberal arts colleges, the professors don't even know alternative points of view, let alone teach their students. When I go to these colleges and I suggest that perhaps you don't have to give 75% of your earnings away to the government for them to spend it on feminist dance therapy. Perhaps, perhaps this wage gap stuff isn't real after all. Some of the students look at me with like slack-jawed horror, shock, surprise. It's like a revelation to them. The fact that somebody might come and actually ask for evidence-based policy and evidence-based beliefs, rather than this sort of bizarre ideology that they're being fed at the moment, which is only really flourishing because of the safe space culture and the trigger warning culture, because it can never be interrogated, because it can never be challenged, because it can never be, nobody is allowed to say, well, what about this? You're suggesting that women get paid, blah, blah, blah. What about this? Like, the economics don't say this.
By Milo showing up to a college and saying a couple things, I've never heard you incite violence, right? I've never heard you call to hurt anyone directly. No. You're saying things, you're even admitting, I think it's clear that you're admitting that you do sometimes go over the line of what you even think is proper, sort of, to just elicit a response from people.
Well, I don't see anything that isn't true, but I'll certainly use provocative language. I don't, I'll go up and I'll make black dick jokes and I'll do all that kind of stuff because I'm
pretty sure we're still allowed to make jokes in this country.
Because it's fun,
Yeah.
Well, you say that, but
for now,
you say that, but Chris Rock, Seinfeld, all these comedians, and you understand this.
Yeah.
Comedians like gay people. We spoke about this in the last time I was here. So canaries in the coal mine with this stuff. They understand the threats to creative freedom before everybody else. And no, you can't make jokes in this country anymore. You can't make you cannot make innocent jokes in this country anymore without running serious risk of professional damage and social censure. And if you are a public figure making a joke about anything to do with race or gender or anything, you are at risk. You're at risk from one of these mobs coming after you.
It's so funny because I'm obviously as big of a free speech proponent as could possibly exist, and I think sometimes that I'm tweeting something and I'm thinking, man, if someone looks back on this in 10 years, if this ideology, if this leftist ideology keeps taking
getting
root,
worse, then
I'm going to be thrown in jail in 10 years. They're going to go, because there'll be a law passed and say, well, 10 years ago you tweeted that this and that.
Well, I prefer to take a more courageous approach to it, and the proper response to outrage culture is to be outrageous, right? I prefer to double down. If somebody says that they find something offensive, I will tell a joke twice as bad.
Yeah.
Because words don't hurt you.
Yeah. You get a certain leash, though. Being British and gay, I think, gives you a certain leash. That was.
I like to think it's my hard work and fact-based argument reason. But I recognise it's probably got more to do with my good looks and my hair and my.
It's the hair. No, but you do get a certain leash because of your persona. Now you've built that yourself, so I don't mean that to discredit you in any way, and I know how hard you work.
Built is a misleading word. I've always been this ridiculous.
They didn't make you. See, I feel that the regressives made me like this. You feel you were born this way.
I was born ridiculous.
You were born ridiculous.
No, I was born ridiculous. We're forcing ridiculousness upon you because you have to make a point to the crazy people that you have to try to live with.
Right. So, all right, let's back up a little bit because I want to talk a little bit more about the social media companies themselves. Okay. So you've made a good point about Twitter. I mean, there's no doubt that Twitter, we know that they're shadow banning, right? Where popular people who say unpopular things suddenly just don't show up in time.
People wondered about this for a while, and I was the one that broke the story because I had confirmation from multiple people that they work with very closely, saying that, and Twitter admitted, yes, we absolutely do this. We whitelist certain accounts so they show up in the top of search results, and we blacklist some accounts so they don't. And this is not in question. It's not a conspiracy theory. Many things on Twitter feel a bit like conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Oh, they've banned another hashtag, and sometimes they might have done, and sometimes they definitely didn't, and who knows?
I'm pretty sure they're fiddling around with the regressive left hashtag.
They are fiddling around with it. There's no question whatsoever, because they have admitted to sources that have come to us that we've published as a result. They've admitted that they actively manipulate their network in order to favour people they like, and often it's their business partners, but it's also people that they like ideologically.
So that really is 1984 kind of stuff. For what we can have in 2016, this type of manipulating what people are talking about.
They're perfectly entitled to do it. They just need to stop lying about it.
Right.
They're perfectly entitled to do it. If they want to run their network like that, fine. The business will collapse. The Conservatives will all leave, and most Liberals actually also want to win on the merits. They don't want the game to be rigged, right? I like to think most Liberals are nice, decent, honest people who would like to win on the merits.
I think most are.
I haven't seen much evidence of that in the last 10 years.
Well, it's only because we've been hijacked. I really am a firm. I see what's happening.
You haven't been hijacked. You see that. I have so many friends like this, and you're all idiots. It's very clear the movement has left you behind. There's no space for free speech on the left, and not just this bit of the left, most of the left. You are in a tiny slice on the left of people who still care about reason, rigour, fact, scrutiny, and free speech, and there is no place for you on the left anymore, so you need to come over and you need to just give in. Give in. I understand this.
I didn't know you were going to do the sell job today. You're doing the full sell job?
I understand this whole, I'm a liberal who believes in free speech thing is good marketing, but give it up. Seriously, because there's nothing for you on the left anymore.
Well, look, but that's why
there's nothing for you on the left. They don't even like you.
Yeah.
They don't like you. They've decided now that if you're gay but you're white and a man, the white man bits of the privilege trump the gay bits, and now they're telling us that our sexual preferences are racist. Like if you've got on your Grindr profile, like I prefer white guys, and I wrote a column on this. It says the only joke that I ever had censored. Yeah. My employers are wonderful, so supportive and brilliant. They let me write whatever the hell I want. But this is the one that they said, "Oh, are you sure you want to do that?" I said, "Well, my Grindr profile says blacks only. Is that racist?" Although, of course, I wouldn't put blacks only because that might put some people off. I'll do words that create the same effect. Like don't contact me if you're under 7 inches and you know who your dad is. So that was the only joke. The only joke. Yeah. But they're now policing our sexuality. And they're saying that you straight white gay men. Well, it's the straight white bit that's the problem. The white gay men, and it's difficult to keep up with it.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So that's sort of what I see with the problem with this ideology. I know you're going to work this for the next hour. You're going to be working overtime. But what I see the problem is that there's never an end to it. So they sort of used gays to get a little more power, and now they're done with.
Well, you've now.
And that's what you're saying, right?
Well, you've now realised that what we discussed in our last show, you were completely wrong, and I was completely right when I said that you were part of the problem, that you had bought out into this sort of domestication of homosexuals. The Liberals just want to plonk you down in gay areas. Where do you live? You live in a gay area, don't you? Of course you do. Plonk you down with your dog and your husband and your nice domestic life, and now they've got you. You'll be a Democrat voter forever. it's easy, like they can move on to the next group, and they've just got you in the bag. And the whole point we talked about last time about sort of dissident gay culture, about the most exciting people being the free thinkers, I think you're now starting to realise I was right, which is lovely, very gratifying for me, wonderful.
Well, I realised that the left... Look,
again,
it was
6 months ahead again.
Yeah. Well, look, I realize without question that the left has lost its mind. As to the point that it's a slice like this, I do think that the fight that my side of this on the left is starting to wake up in big numbers. So I don't think we all have to somehow defect to you guys just yet as much as you'd like us to.
When you say you guys, I mean, I'm not a Republican. I mean, I'm British for a start.
Yeah.
I can't even vote here. I mean,
right.
I'm a daddy supporter, but
yeah, we're going to get to your daddy.
I call Trump daddy. Everybody knows this now.
So just wrapping up the social media stuff and free speech related to these companies. If these companies are run by these social justice warriors, and it really does seem like, look, I don't want to lose my Twitter verification, so I don't get.
They're going to ban you sooner or later.
No, so
you're going to lose it. You're going to go.
So look, I don't want to lose that, and I don't want to be banned on Facebook, and we put our videos up on YouTube, obviously. I saw last week or 2 weeks ago there was this organization that does translations from Arabic, and all they do is translate what imams are saying in mosques in the Middle East, telling about killing all the Jews and killing all the gays.
Sounds like a lovely job.
And they got banned for hate speech. All they do is translate the hate speech, and enough people.
But liberals don't want you to know what the Muslims are saying. They don't want you to know what's happening in these mosques, because if people knew about it, they might be less happy with this, this huge influx of immigration. They might be less happy about having their own perfectly reasonable points of view censored and mischaracterized as hate speech. I mean, this is what the left does. It mischaracterizes ridicule and criticism as abuse and harassment. It mischaracterizes perfectly valid, ordinary anxieties that regular people are justified in having as hate speech. I'm looking out on the world now and I'm thinking, people like Tommy Robinson from the EDL.
He's been on the show.
Right, and I'm thinking, there were some things he said in the 90s and whatever it was, okay, fine, too much. And the violence is obviously unacceptable. But I'm listening to him now, and people are like, oh, Tommy Robinson, is racist, bigot. I'm listening to him now. I can't find anything to disagree with. I can't find anything to disagree with in the speech when he went at Oxford University, mapped out his life and how he saw his community changing and how he saw the police either hamstrung or actively lying about it, the government lying about it, the media lying about it. All this stuff is now playing out on social media, and the scary thing about these companies is that they are totally they are in lockstep with government. Facebook, Germany, lockstep, with Merkel.
Yeah,
Twitter.
Isn't there video of Zuckerberg?
Yeah, there's
and
a
Merkel
recording
talking?
of Merkel and Zuckerberg. Yeah. Twitter. Here, lockstep. They have meetings all day, every day with this, with the government officials at lockstep on this stuff. I don't know what they're going to do when Daddy gets into the White House, but no, it's terrifying.
I should tell people when you say Daddy, you're talking Trump. Just for the people that don't know all your lingo just yet, you're referring to Trump. We'll get to.
I'm referring to the God Emperor.
To Trump in just a
the
second.
God Emperor and his incoming Trumpenreich.
So I've realized if I accomplish nothing else with you while sitting here, I want you.
We've accomplished nothing so far.
We've made nothing happen so far. No. But I want you to at least make the different distinction between when you talk about the left and leftists versus liberals. You don't see those.
No, I don't want to make that distinction.
So you just think I'm just the outlier of this situation, but
I know you are.
Yeah.
I know
I'm the outlier.
BuzzFeed has 50 million viewers. They're not, well, whatever the hell numbers they have this week.
So if someone,
these people don't come from nowhere. That's what the left is. That's the left.
So that's the left. But I wouldn't call them liberals.
You don't belong there anymore.
But I wouldn't call those people liberals anymore. But I guess that's
it's a quirk of linguistic history that the American left is called the liberal movement because they don't believe in liberalism. They're not classical liberals. But I'm sorry, arguing over words like the left likes to do is not going to change the fact that the entire left side of the American political spectrum has gone mad. And if you just can't, in good conscience, vote Democrat. If you don't believe in any of this stuff, if you want us to be able to have discussions like this, not just on your show, but on the national news and in the pages of the newspapers, if you believe in that, you cannot vote Democrat.
Well, that's where these motherfuckers have caught me. They've really pushed me into a corner here because everything, all the free speech stuff, right? Fighting against ideology, secularism, all of that stuff. That's my stuff. That's the stuff I really care about.
And the left is crazy on all of it.
The left right now is crazy on the stuff I care about most. And I say that as someone that has never not voted Democratic, ever. And here we are. Would be
be the first to affirm that the success of these social networking companies rests on their commitment to First Amendment principles. Now, he wasn't saying you can enforce the First Amendment on private companies. And I'd get thrown out of the Conservative Club if I tried to suggest that.
And just to be clear, the First Amendment is about the government taking away your free speech, not people taking away your free speech.
But the late Aaron Swartz, the founder of Reddit, said, you know, censorship has a meaning outside the government.
That's it, right? But you had yours removed.
Yes.
I don't think there's been any other case of that happening, and it clearly was a punitive measure. So just real quick, though, I just want people to understand, we're not doing this to be so insider, oh, my little Twitter account got whatever,
no,
but there's a bigger issue.
It matters, because Twitter is using a mechanism to protect public figures like us from impersonation, and also there are privilege concerns when somebody's speaking to, when private companies have a monopoly on certain kinds of speech. Now, Twitter certainly does, not only because it has such a stranglehold on journalism and the media, but also because it's invented an entirely new public square. If you're in a pub and you make a joke that involves race or sex or whatever, and the publican doesn't like it, you can go to another pub down the road. There is no other Twitter, all right? This is a fundamentally important.
So a lot of things have happened to you over the past few months. Your star has risen. Last you were here, you had a blue Twitter verification check. You do not have it anymore. You are, as far as I know, the only public person to have their blue verification check. For those that don't know what it means, I mean, it basically means you are who you are. So that if you're a celebrity or you're a politician,
identity verification.
Yeah, it's just saying you are who you are.
Me, in my role as a journalist, they have an expectation of privacy and of legal privilege.
Yeah.
Now people are DMing people with my name on Twitter, giving personal information about their lives. That exposes Twitter to liability too, by the way. There's there's a reason why it's a good idea to have public figures verified, but they used it as an ideological weapon. Now, when I went to the White House to ask about this, I asked Josh Earnest about this, and he said, very interestingly, I thought, the president